right. Should be back up and running now. We should be getting set up here between MrYellow and Kryptofis. Finally ready and able to play. Thanks to all 11 of you so far in the chat and everybody who's been helping us fill this, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes of wait time while Crypto took care of what he needed to. All right, let's see what decks they're using. You would think MrYellow has had great success with his Dark Deal deck. Crypto's been playing Old Allies a lot in Throne Room. We're going to get Instead, we're going to get Diplo versus Black Sun. Okay. And we'll see what kind of effects we're going to start with here. MrYellow, of course, is going to do Shadows and Wipe. Will his third effect be Decree? Or something different? He's going to go with Decree Virtual. We've seen a lot of people kind of audible to that, to make playing those senses a little less expensive. Oh, ask me to speak up because I can just move my microphone a little bit closer or turn my volume up a little bit. How's that, Mike? Can you hear me from across the room now? Crypto's going to start strike planning, squadron assignments, interesting, and evac control. Typically when you see strike planning, squadron assignments, usually it means General Lando Falcon, and then they try and do like the one-turn flip. But I think he just stacked his Falcon on evac, which is unfortunate, to say the least. Yeah, I'm always a big fan of this start, not with the evac, with these two effects. I think it's a great way to flip first turn. You can actually do it if they give you one force, or if you have Wackling and they give you one, you can kind of do it first turn. You can deploy Falcon, dock, move, go down to Alderaan, and come right back. And then like set up Celebration at Tatooine. You don't even need Chandrilla or anything in between as another system. Which I think is pretty interesting and an interesting way to play the deck. It's not usually the way most people do it. You don't get quite the force activation by not having Chandrilla. And obviously if you do something like this and get your Falcon stuck, you could be in trouble. So we'll have to see, you know, just what else Crypto has up his sleeve here. MrYellow is going to pull Fanfare, use that to get the bounty. Crypto's going to play Might and see which senator he goes for, whether he just grabs Bail or Leia Organa. Usually the two key senators that people always look for. He takes Bail Organa. He also used strike planning for Senator Mon Mothma. And he took General Kraken with his other strike planning pull. Is that Lando as well on there? Oh, it's Lando as well. That's even worse. It's almost not worth starting evac. Make sure, you know, when you're playing a deck like that, starting evac is pretty risky. You know, as long as we're looking, let's see what his third effect is. His third card is. It's a hit. So Black Sun versus Diplo. Both decks have the ability to spread out to multiple locations. I would think it would favor Black Sun, typically because Diplo puts a lot of cards on the table, and having the consistent ping damage from Shadows should eat into that a little bit. There's also the Diplo decks don't usually run as many copies of Luke, so that can take a little longer to find to flip the Black Sun objective back. Luke doesn't usually have quite the staying power, whether it's just one or two young Skywalkers that they're using, or possibly Luke in space. Yeah, it could be difficult, and meanwhile, you know, he's going to get hit with a couple of ping damage, and shadows and the objective, and like I said, Diplo already puts a lot of cards on the table to begin with. As you can see, I mean, there's already a 42 to 36 advantage, and we're basically, at the beginning of the game. MrYellow did only win the first game by 4, though, so there's still, anything can happen in this game. It can be a lot of maneuvering for position, especially in the early game here. I probably won't see too many battles in the first couple of turns. Krypto's going to get Mon Mothma aboard the Tantive and go looking for Chandrilla. So he is still playing that at least, so he can do this the old-fashioned way. He can't do the quick turn Falcon flip, but he can start moving the Tantive over. He'll get the grabber as well. He's got Bale in hand, so he can add him, and he's got Kraken for a pilot, so the Tantive should be pretty well protected. And he's got Savrip as well, so he can forfeit that, but it's going to get hit with Cold Feet, which cancels it already. Cancel Savrip or Surprise Assault. And Krypto's going to grab the Cold Feet. So either he plans on eventually retrieving Savrip, or he just doesn't want MrYellow playing extra defensive shields. It's an interesting card to grab so early in the game. He adds Captain Antilles. Now he doesn't even need Kraken aboard. He can save Kraken for the ground. And he'll start moving the Tantive over. Now at least he'll get nice extra activation bonus on turn 2 here with the extra force at Chandrilla. Occupy with the capital, force generation +2 for you here. And now he's at Parsec 4, so he can easily get to Alderaan next turn. Potentially he'll deploy a second ship here, dock, move R2 and Red 5 over, or R2 and C-3PO over to that ship, and then move, Bright Hope or something, or Gold Eater and Gold 1 to Alderaan. That way he can maintain staying at the battleground and keeping his extra force activation. MrYellow is going to put a card down and start peeking through his force pile. It's always dangerous whenever you give an elite player that kind of information. Totally letting him plan out his entire turn, wondering, where are the cards that he needs? How far down are they? Are they near the top? And he just takes, does the 1 ping damage from the objective, pulls the sight, and kind of calls it a day and draws into the stuff he needs? Or are they further down, and he can afford to pay and deploy extra characters, pay to drain, and do all sorts of those kinds of things. Yeah, this is the uplink station. This is the palace wasn't in there, so he was only able to get 1 site out on the first turn. And now there's the palace, and then he would use the palace now to get the sewers if it's still in there. And the sewers was, so he fished that out of the reserve deck as well. He will deploy his non-virtual original Reflections 2 version Vigo. And we'll see if he's got an Emperor. He does have an Emperor, so now he's got 2 sites covered. That Vigo will move over to the 3rd site in just a second. And we'll get a Shadows ping as well. And then the Prince and the Vigo may consolidate. his opponent having 10 cards in hand and getting 13, 14 force total. He may want to play that. I mean, yes, he's got the bounty, but and possibly other barriers and stuff as well. But he may want to play this one a little bit more conservatively and not leave the Prince and the Vigo separated. I don't think he needs that kind of pressure, that kind of play. If it were, you know, if he needed to win by a wider margin, maybe he might force something like that, but I don't think he needs to do that. What do I know? He's going to leave him. So I guess he's got extra cards floating around, or he wants to make sure he gets one more shadows damage during his opponent's turn. You know, while he still can before the errata on that card becomes effective. Hopefully you guys have all seen that. And the errata will be live in about a week on GEMP. Cause one more force loss. There goes a Lieutenant Blount off the top. Let's see what he lost earlier. He lost Ray off the top earlier. That's 2 characters down, only about 20 more to go for your standard Diplo deck. Crypto will pull out Moss Isley. And the City Outskirts. Okay, City Outskirts is a good one. Probably use that and get young Skywalker, I would think, if he's available. And I must be allowed to speak. He's going to send Kanan Jarrus after the Emperor. Kanan Jarrus cancels immunity to attrition. While present with an Imperial, all immunity to attrition here is canceled. So he's a pretty good card to negate the Emperor there. So let's do this and make it a little bigger for you guys. So yeah, so Kanan Jarrus cancels the Emperor's immunity, makes it easier to get him off the table. Also, because if the Emperor does not have immunity to attrition, he cannot play Force Lightning, which is also important. And he does use the City Outskirts and deploys young Skywalker, which flips the Black Sun objective back to the 0 side. So as expected. And now probably move the... Doesn't appear to have another ship, though. So he won't be able to flip his objective this turn by occupying the site and system. He does get a use pile search from I must be allowed to speak, courtesy of young Skywalker being deployed. But I can't imagine he's got enough force to even deploy a ship or anything like that. He's going to need to save a couple back. So I think we'll just see the Tanev move to Alderaan here in a second. And then he'll get to complete the plans rather, and go upload any card from his reserve deck that he wants. Probably finding something to combo up with Kanan Jarrus, or like get a Hujix or something like that if he's afraid of a beatdown. He may not be running it though, because he was relying on the Mantelian Savrip, so he may not have Hujix to play in this particular deck. I don't know. People in the chat seem to think that Darkside's going to do some ping damage and then just go after Luke. That seems like a pretty solid play, depending on what characters MrYellow has available. Could easily be, you know, a Boba Fett bounty hunter and any other bounty hunter. 3 Destiny. I mean, evac control is of course on the table, so it would get limited to just 1 Destiny draw, and Luke is immune to less than 6. But really just want to try and outpower him, force him off the table. But plenty of activation right now for MrYellow. He's going to go pick up that Force Lightning that he just cycled back. Let him look through his reserve deck, see what his destinies look like, and then kind of start to figure out what might be in his force pile. He could possibly have something like a Tarkin's Bounty or a Force Push that he may be looking to play here to, go dig out the other missing component or whatever he needs to win a big battle, whether it's a hidden weapons or just an extra character or something. So he'll start with the Shadows ping, picking up another card. Krypto's got to lose Might of the Republic off the top. He's already down to 21 force left down. Compared to MrYellow, who still has 35. There's just so many cards on the table for Diplo. It's one of the reasons I tend to shy away from the deck sometimes. He did have Tarkin's Bounty, so now he's going to go fish out something from the force pile here. He's got 18 choices to pick from, so. And he's going to have plenty of force to deploy multiple things, which might even let him battle in 2 places. He could deploy 2 or 3 guys and go after Luke, deploy 1 or 2 more characters to back up the Emperor, clear Luke and Kanan Jarrus at the same time. Krypto does have that 1 force saved, though. He might have a barrier of his own, possibly a dodge or a narrow escape or something like that to move away as a react. I'm sure we'll see MrYellow pull the firepower shield, but that would be his last shield pull. He's already used 3 of them, and his cold feet did get grabbed, so he may want to reconsider that, possibly just play like a sense or something like that instead to cancel it. You're probably right, Steve. He's got 10 cards in hand, and he's kind of been looking at what he wants for the last turn or 2, so there's a pretty good chance he's got some powerful counters. And the first card he deploys is not one that we were even talking about. He's going to space with Zuckuss to Tatooine. Certainly nothing wrong with that. Pile on the potential battle damage. He also gets himself a 3rd battleground by doing it this way. He can move the Emperor over, then he can move the Prince to the Vigo. Oh, he's going to leave the Vigo alone again. Alright, so he clearly has a Gick in his hand. Clear is what he's told us by this play. In addition to the bounty, he must have a Gick at this point. Kryptofis is not at a battleground system, so therefore he would have to pay for his force drains. And in the meantime, MrYellow is going to hit him again with Shadows of the Empire. He will throw away a copy of Keep Your Eyes Open from hand. And then activate a force with Wipe. 8 force active, 12 in hand for MrYellow. Krypto's got 16 force active and 10 in hand. Obviously, we know the Tandem's going to move back to Chandrilla. He does get the farm out of his reserve deck. He may have a Cantina as well. Right now, the Tandem can't make it the Tatooine, and it certainly doesn't have enough piloting ability anyway to get around Zuckuss. We do see Commander Nara make an appearance. He's going to draw out the first barrier, which will be the second barrier that he's played this game. But Nara does let you draw top card of reserve deck. So Krypto will go ahead and do that and draw one more card. So he's got 3 force left in his reserve deck now. And MrYellow still has the other bounty in hand to block a second character from coming down. Bell goes on the Tantive as a passenger, loading that up a little bit further. And then we see Owen and Baru come out. And MrYellow does the same thing that everyone does the instant Owen and Baru hit the table at Lars Moisture Farm. He plays the Do They Have a Code Clearance Shield. You can almost set your watch by it, how often people, that is their immediate reaction. 90% of the decks do not run Harvest, but that's exactly what they play it for, because that card is pretty annoying, and you do want to be able to shut down a lot of their retrieval. Now he's going down with Kraken. He may just let that go through. Nope, he's going to play the bounty on him as well. You almost feel like he's been setting him up here at Krypto a little bit, like there's a bigger, better third character that's going to come down, whether it's, I don't know, Obi or maybe Leia or something. He's playing General Lando, so it's not Lando Scoundrel. Chewie V to the Dune C. That'll get him a use pile pull. This particular Chewie, while piloting the Falcon, maneuver +2, draws 1 if unable to otherwise, and your battle destiny draws and total battle destiny may not be modified, cancelled, or reset by opponent. Basically, he gives a big finger to Zuckuss, but only while he's piloting the Falcon. And unfortunately, the Falcon seems to be stuck over here on evac control right now. But by doing this cheap Chewie over here, it does let him fish out another character. I believe he probably took Leia from his used pile. Wow. And after all that, I just as soon kiss a Wookiee. That's a card we haven't seen in quite a while. I'm sure there's a few people who are very excited to see that card being played right here. What does it do? Use 3 force. Place an opponent's just deployed character, starship, vehicle, weapon, or device in their hand. On their next turn, that card or one of the same title may deploy for free. Oh, Krypto's got a sense. He's going to try and sense it with young Skywalker. And MrYellow's going to sense his sense. We're getting all kinds of old school cards here today. We're going into an old-fashioned sense battle. which is successful. So MrYellow will have to lose the sense and just one force. As we mentioned earlier, the Imperial Decree reduces the force loss by 1 to a minimum of 1. It reduces the force loss by number of battlegrounds, which in this case is 3, but it can't reduce it below 1. So he only has to lose 1 force to the sense, plus the sense itself. He loses Darrow from the used pile, the card he drew for Destiny. Krypto Sense is also cancelled, and then Leia gets returned back to hand. Interestingly enough, if the whatever it is, Imperial Detention, the free shield was out, when he redeploys Leia next turn for free, he'd have to pay 2 to deploy her, because she's not deploying for free per her own game text. She doesn't have to go back to the same location, though. She just has to be redeployed. So Leia could go anywhere next turn, quite possibly back to Tatooine. And since he didn't use his once per game, I must be allowed to speak pull, that could work out in his favor. In the meantime, MrYellow is going to continue his pressure. He's going to get a drain of 1 at the Palace. Crypto top decks Profundity. And then there's a drain of 2 at Tatooine. Top decks a Rebel Barrier and a Young Skywalker. Last turn, Crypto didn't move back to Chandril to try and chase to get the Zuckuss. He went the other way. He went to Coruscant, making it a battleground, because while you control it, gains 1 light side icon. The Tantive also adds a battleground. So therefore, this is a 2-2 site right now, or 2-2 system. And now he'll just continue to lean on him with the Shadows pressure. Crypto's already down to 15 cards face down, plus 5 in hand. He's got 20 left. Meanwhile, MrYellow's looking at 31 and 8, total 39. So 39 to 20. That's a pretty sizable lead. Diplo is spread out pretty well. They can do multiple sources of damage, but without any type of retrieval, they're just not going to have enough time, I think, to catch up to the damage that Black Sun's putting on this game. MrYellow did his Shadows of the Empire ping. That took an all wings combo out of Crypto's hand. And now they both have verified MrYellow's reserve deck as he looked for a Palace site, of which there aren't any additional ones. MrYellow's going to think. Just trying to figure out what's his best course of action. He wants to stay on 3 battlegrounds so he can keep doing the consistent ping damage, but he doesn't necessarily really want to do a whole lot of battles. So whether he battles and clears Kanan, whether he just deploys some guys to Mos Eisley just to get this 3rd location, and then he can move the Vigo over and consolidate. And I mean, he's taking a lot of damage by doing that, because he's going to get, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just right off the bat, plus being drained for 2 and 1 would be pretty bad. Oh, he's got a copy of IG-88 with Riot Gun. With these low ability characters, Ig should be able to capture somebody. Krypto has another barrier. Looks like he was running 2 or 3 copies of that card. But with 14 force left and 7 cards in hand, we'll likely see at least 1 or 2 more characters being deployed by MrYellow. A B2 battle droid. It's an interesting inclusion. It's a droid, so it's not limited by the restrictions of the Black Sun objective. Draws destiny by itself if unable to otherwise, and adds 1 to attrition. Decent power, hard to hit. And it's non-V Forlom joining him as well. That Forlom is one that cancels game text, which will be pretty rough against Owen and Baru, since they would not then get a Battle Destiny draw. Still not a whole lot of a power difference here, and we could likely see a dodge or something like that. Nope, no react. So Forlom will go ahead and just cancel Owen and Baru's game text. So they will not get a Battle Destiny draw. They do still forfeit for 5. So they'll cover up to 9. So anything higher than 3 that MrYellow draws would cause overflow. I think he just wants to get Owen and Baru off the table in case there is any type of retrieval shenanigans. He wants to just end that right now before Krypto finds a way to retrieve any cards and drag this game out any further. With how many sites Diplo can usually cover, the longer the game goes, the more it usually favors them. They find a way to just hang around for a while and then do 7, 8 damage a turn because of all the locations that they've covered. So he does draw 4. That'll be Owen and Baru and 1 force. He top decks Zebrelios. I forget what he does. Something about trample, right? Yeah, it makes guys immune to trample and adds attrition against opponent. And then Owen and Baru go bye-bye. Also takes 1 more low ability character, which was adding to the total battle destiny using the objective. And because their game texts were canceled, Luke is not power +6. So several interesting little things happening there. Well, the prince goes the other way, so he goes to join the Vigo, leaving the Emperor alone. Now, Nara does draw if unable to otherwise, so that does get around the prince's 6 ability text. But you'd have to believe if they battled, Nara would probably be the one most likely to get captured by Ig, which would just leave Kraken kind of hanging out by himself. So, but light side can do some damage this turn. They'll get 2, 4, 5, 6 damage in. Oh, 7. Forgot Bale adds 1 to force drains where you have an Alderanian. So it's actually a drain of 3 of the system. And no resistance available either. MrYellow loses the Imperial Square according to my design, both from hand and then top decks Dr. Aphra. And then he goes and pulls out a Force Lightning. Gets drained for 2 at the sewer. Ten cards in hand, 23 down still for MrYellow. He throws away the Phaline's Fist from hand and top decks a Gick. And he's got 2 more damage coming from Luke and Chewie. It's a Cad Bane off the top and a Jango Fett off the top. So certainly a couple of characters. Now the sewer could come into play here. Once per game, if you occupy 3 battlegrounds, may retrieve a Black Sun agent into hand. So one of those agents that he just lost, either Jango, Cad Bane, could be coming back to hand. Dr. Aphra could be coming back to hand pretty soon. There's Leia getting redeployed along with Hera. He will get a use pile pull. Just looking for the Diplo objective. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 locations right now that light side occupies. Oh, and they deployed Chirrut. Chirrut's a very interesting character. If battle is initiated here, peek at top card of any reserve deck, return it or place it on top of owner's force pile. But more importantly, once per game, you may recirculate. So all this force that Krypto just spent, once per game he could recirculate, which would then allow him to have multiple destiny draws available to him. He's going to look at the top card of MrYellow's reserve deck when he initiates battle. It's the other thing that he gets to do. You can either return it or put it on top of their force pile. He opted to leave it, and then he will pick up a card off Justice. Chirrut's not immune to anything, though. But as we said, he is adding 1, 2, 3, 4 to his total. Battlegrounds occupied by rebels of ability less than 4. So yeah, so he's going to add 4 to his total battle destiny. MrYellow plays a Dark Time to activate 1 to move that card that Krypto left. Whether it was a bluff or not, we'll never know, but he's going to do it just in case. Krypto will recirculate with Chirrut, giving himself plenty of cards left in reserve deck, so if he wanted to initiate multiple battles this turn, he would be able to. He draws a 4, which becomes an 8 for a total, and it is a rebel barrier, so he will take that into hand using Mom Mothma's once per turn text. Darkside also draws a 4. So Chirrut's going to die, and Darkside's going to have to peel 4 cards, I would imagine, to keep the Emperor on the table. He could have another Emperor in his hand and just redeploy him, but the light side will also, for winning a battle, gets the ability to retrieve a force. That's only once per turn. The objective lets him do it. That's only once per turn. I know some people tend to forget that and start retrieving every time they win a battle. He gets Solo back, so he gets another character back. Now Mr. Yellow's got 4 battle damage. He's got to think about, does he want to keep the Emperor around or peel 4 cards? I would peel 4 cards, and it looks like he's going to as well. He pitches an Emperor from a hand. Top decks an Emperor. Top decks a Boba Fett and a Zam Wessel as well. Nuclear Wessel. It's a bad Star Trek impression there. All right, and then we've got Hera and Leia. Leia doesn't get to add a destiny to power or attrition because she's not with an Imperial leader. And Hera doesn't get to add a destiny because she's not with 2 rebels. So she gets the redraw text, but 4-Lom's going to cancel that. So no redraws. Possibly see if Krypto wants to pick up his 3rd card off Justice. Probably not. He's going to draw 5 and draw Rescue in the Clouds, which is enough to clear both characters because they have terrible forfeits. Plus, when you add 4 to it to make it a 9, that's going to guarantee to clear everybody anyway. But Mr. Yellow draws a 4, so he'll have 5 attrition. Still is only enough to get one of these guys. They both forfeit for 6. And the objective's not flipped, so there's no extra adding to it as well. Krypto loses Hera. Mr. Yellow's going to have to lose both characters. But that's not the worst thing in the world for him, because Afra's in his lost pile. So he could use this text on the sewer, retrieve Afra, deploy Afra, and then pick up one of the droids. And then Afra and the B2 droid are, could beat up on Leia. He could pick up Afra, another character, in 4-Lom, cancel Leia's game text, so then she wouldn't get a destiny. He's got options there. Yep, Mr. Yellow is going to go ahead and use the retrieval text on the sewer. He's got a few options for which one to pick. He's got Zam, he's got Cad Bane in there, he's got Afra, he's got Django. He is going to take Afra, so as we just got done talking about, he's going to pick up Afra and then use her to retrieve a droid. And Krypto with only 1 force left. He has a barrier in hand, we know that, because he just took it with Mothma. So whether Mr. Yellow has a sense or not for that barrier. But in the meantime, he's going to continue to apply pressure. He's got a drain of 1 here, 2 there, and then 1 more from Shadows. So he's going to do 4 damage to Krypto this turn. Doesn't have enough force to move these guys away, so they're going to get battled. Somebody's going to get captured. Nara's going to get captured. Kraken's not going to have enough to draw Destiny. That's going to have to get Hoojixed. He may have to end up shuttling somebody down, possibly. Which is also a risky play. But he might not have a choice. Obviously he wants to keep Bail up there to keep this drain big, keep the Leia drain fairly big. Mothma's probably the one that's the most expendable. But then if he does that, then he doesn't have any force left to barrier. So, and then Leia ends up dying every way. Anyway. But that was a very good turn for Kryptofis in terms of overall damage. You know, he did 5 or 6 points of damage early, and then through drains, 3, 5, 6, 7, and then caused 4 more battle damage against the Emperor. So he certainly closed the gap a little bit. MrYellow's down to 16, 18, and 8, 26 total life force, as opposed to his 13 and 5, 18 total. And yes, this is where all the cool kids hang out. The cool kids are always on Twitch. We're one step ahead of everybody else who wants to just hang out and watch the Jump game. And you could hang out in the Twitch lobby and talk about the game that's actually going on. There are 18 people sitting in the Jump game though as well, observing. It's a tough spot for Krypto to be in with only that 1 force left. I mean, he did a good job, like we said, getting himself back into this position. But he certainly has a pretty fragile board state right now. Oh, he's going to pass. He's going to leave that 1 force alone and save it for the barrier. MrYellow's going to do the shadow damage. Krypto's going to top deck an escape pod we're doomed combo. He gets drained for 1. That's an OB off the top. And then drain of 2 with Zuckuss at Tatooine. He's going to top deck the Gold Leader in Gold 1. And Jyn Erso. "14 force left active for MrYellow here. 3 Destiny saved, so he's got options. Obviously, he'll need 2 of them for this battle at the Palace. 1 to use Ig's weapon. He's got U-3PO. Okay, U-3PO is an undercover spy to block the drain at the sewer. That'll save him 2 force a turn for pretty much forever at this point, I think. Doesn't even need a program trap. Afra's going to Mos Eisley alone. She deploys for free to an unoccupied location. Unoccupied site. Droids are deployed -1 here. When deployed, search lost pile, move 1 card there. to top of pile, and if it's a droid, you retrieve it into hand. Aim high is out, so he'll have to pay 1 to retrieve said droid. Now the question is just which droid does he want to get? Does he want 4-LOM to blank someone's game text? Does he want the B2 droid to just go pick somebody off? Like he could go pick off Chewie. Chewie doesn't get a Battle Destiny. I mean, obviously we know he's got the barrier in hand, but if he's got the sense to back it up, then he could get around it that way. He's got Probot. That's another droid who draws by himself if unable to otherwise. So if he barriers Probot, then the B2 droid can come down on top. So it's almost like he just has to save the barrier. The B2 droid's slightly less power, just 1, but you might want to make MrYellow commit the extra force to doing it. Power +2 when with opponent Smuggler or Wookiee, so Probot's power 5. And he does play the barrier. MrYellow will grab that, taking 1 more card away from his opponent. But that's only going to leave him 5 force. The question is going to be is, does he want to deploy someone else, or does he just want to battle and move? He's just going to battle. He's going to capture Nara. There's the Dark Time you guys were talking about in chat. Good job tracking his deck. Nara is captured. And he'll go ahead and seize him instead of sending him used or doing anything crazy. Just want to give him another card back or anything. And then no Battle Destiny for Kraken. Without a Hoojix, this is game over right here, as he's down 9 plus whatever he's going to draw for Destiny. He'll evac control and pick up a card. He gets It's a Hit. Could come in handy to cancel a Force Drain since he controls Coruscant. Also to get him 1 more card in hand. You'd have to believe he's got the Hoojix at this point, but you never know. He really could have been relying on Savrip to do all the heavy lifting. Kraken's going to get forfeited, which makes the bounties text trigger, so he gets to, MrYellow gets to look at his hand, so he gets to see those 5 cards in his hand. And then he gets to retrieve a force, so he gets to retrieve 4-LOM. And then the bounty is lost. And he does have the Hoojix. Not surprising there. It really didn't make sense any other way, but it could have been just one heck of a bluff. Unfortunately, it's a bluff that's going to get called, so it's not really that kind of play. And then it comes down to what to do with Afra. Do you just leave her there? Lightside does not have many force left to work with, and they're going to get hit for 1 more from Shadows at the start of their turn. he's got a barrier. It makes absolutely no sense to move her. So there's no need to do that. They both just verify what that remaining card is. Mr. Yellow may also have a Gick in hand as well, so Afra could be fine there. Or she could move over to join Probot. Well, he could pop Decree, you're right, to let her draw if necessary. Worst case scenario. It's obviously not what he wants to use it for, but you're right, he could use that if necessary. He does consolidate, though. Again, he's not really trying to open himself up to any unnecessary risks. He's way ahead on life force. And he's just trying to just squeeze out, like you said, those last 2 turns. He does the Shadows ping. Krypto loses the Falcon. He does get trained for 3 at Coruscant. Throws away the program trap. Emperor number 4, I believe that is, from hand. For those of you counting at home. And he top decks Banis Keeg. Leia's going to drain for 2. Compliments of Bale. He top decks the 4-Lum. And a Greedo. And then he'll throw away a Sense from hand for the last drain. Total life force count, Mr. Yellow's got 19. Kryptofis has 11. Krypto does deploy General Calrissian from hand to the Dune Sea there. That's also going to get him a use pile pull with I must be allowed to speak. And he would have enough ability now to draw Battle Destiny. Now he's going to outpower him. He gets the Battle Destiny. He takes Rescue in the Clouds and plays it. That's just going to let him peek, I believe. I don't believe that will let him take a card into hand. Because I don't think he's got 3 cards available. So it just lets him peek, I believe. At least that's how Gem plays it out. We haven't seen a celebration or anything go by, though. Wasn't sure if he was running a type of retrieval in this deck other than just, you know, what the objective does and young Skywalker and that type of stuff, but Krypto's currently adding 3 to his total Battle Destiny. And with the low forfeit on Afra, who only forfeits for 3, basically drawing a 3 would clear that whole site at the Dune Sea. He could then forfeit Chewie or something like the Orlando. Either character. Wouldn't make much of a difference. That would also win him a battle, which would probably let him retrieve a card. Might just drag this game out a little bit a little longer, a little deeper. And it looks like that is what he's going to do, is initiate that battle. We got 10 to 8. They both get a Battle Destiny draw. He draws a 4. Okay, there's the Tatooine celebration we've been looking for a while now. Not that it ever would really have come into play with Zuckuss going to Tatooine so early. But, you know, it's a solid 7 for a total, which will clear both characters. And that 4 will just get one character. Probably Lando, because he's lower power. Light side wins, though. They will get to pay 1 to retrieve 1. They get their Falcon back. I'd be curious to see with this type of spread deck, the way he's running it, if he had a copy of like Run Luke Run in there. Not really sure you ever have room to fit something like that in a Diplo deck, really, though. He forfeits Chewie, keeps Lando around. And best he could do with that last force is move Kanan Jarrus in front of the Emperor. Yeah. He blocks a drain of 1, and will U-3PO come along? MrYellow does have 1 force available. Yep, he's going to move U-3PO along with him. And I'll play Force Lightning used to then put a 5 back where he can easily track it. Yeah, we don't know what the other card in Krypto's hand is at this point. But you're right, the one of them is it's a hit, which he'll use to cancel the drain at the palace. He's still going to get hit with 2 and a Shadows Ping for 1 more damage. And we'll see whatever characters MrYellow might still have up his sleeve to go deal with probably Lando on Tatooine, or maybe just get rid of Kanan Jarrus. Unlikely that he'd want to do that. I'd probably just move the Emperor away and leave U-3PO there. That seems to make the most sense. Top decks the Cantina and Might of the Republic to the drain of 2 at Tatooine. And then there's the drain of 1, which should draw out. Oh, that's the Falcon. It's not, it's a hit, so I guess he lost that earlier. Yeah, he can't Force Lightning Kanan Jarrus because he cancels the Emperor's immunity. He is going to use the text on the front side of the objective, though, to move to where a bounty is. He can move a bounty hunter to where there's a bounty, so he's going to move IG over. To the Emperor. So now he's got a little bit of extra power. Crypto top decks Cal Alder to the Shadows of the Empire damage this turn. And if he's got a second character here, 1, 2, 3. He's got Dengar. Okay, so there he goes. He's going to track. He tracked the Force Lightning 5. And Dengar's going to shoot Kanan Jarrus, making him forfeit 0. Also adds Destiny with Ig. Ig and a Bounty Hunter are together, so that would be 2 Battle Destiny. So anything short of a dodge to get Kanan Jarrus out of there. It's going to be pretty rough for Kryptofis here. Initiates battle. No react. We're paused here for a second. I don't know if Crypto's thinking about something, or if MrYellow's just figuring out which weapon he wants to use. He does have the dodge. Okay, so he will move away as the react, and it gets sensed. That was kind of his only out, I think, unless he's got another Hujix in hand. He stacked a crappy Destiny on top of his 5. So the sense will be lost. He'll lose 1, which will probably be... Oh, it's Ellison Hithra from hand. Okay, doesn't need another ship. Yeah. Kanan Jarrus does not get to move away. Dengar will then shoot him and draw the Force Lightning. They're tracking us. Nope, he's hit and forfeit 0. So unless that last card he's clutching is a second. Nope, good game, well played. Crypto's throwing in the towel there. He's out of tricks. Just wait for them to actually push the actual button. He'll draw Battle Destinies. He's got a 4 and something else to go with it. 2 4s. Crypto draws a 4 of his own, which becomes a 7. So it's 19 to 12. So he'd be losing Kanan Jarrus and 7 cards, of which he only has exactly 7 cards left. Oh, he does get a card back. When Nara is released, Nara escapes to the used pile, giving him 1 more card back. So he can lose the card from hand and top deck everything and get down to 1 card remaining, which MrYellow will just make him lose with Shadows of the Empire at the start of his turn. But it would make him draw 1 more card, so it would cut his differential to 12. Yep, he draws, causes 1 more ping damage. That was Corn Horn. It's the last card he had left. So that's going to go ahead and do it. MrYellow will advance to the top 8. 2 pretty interesting games against Kryptofis. We'll go ahead and update the bracket. Thank you all very much for tuning in with us this afternoon. Looks like there were like 17, 18 of you guys watching, checking out this game between 2 of the top players in the world. And check the schedule on the PC forums for when the rest of our games will be played. I believe the next one is going to be Thursday morning. Game 2 Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Stevie gets RLMD. I believe that's our next game coming up. And that's going to do it for today. So you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching.